even looking at that pile in the corner and you just think, I just don't want to do this right now. Or maybe you've got piles in a lot of corners and there are like micro piles and you have to make decisions about it. And then it becomes this big thing and your system gets overwhelmed by your clutter. My guest today is an incredible, absolutely, she is going to blast this out of the water for you. She will take care of the clutter in your life and she's trauma informed. Valerie Huard is an award-winning expert in trauma-informed decluttering. Did you know that was a thing? Because I needed this in my life so long ago, you guys. She's a best-selling author, and she's the co-founder and president of Do Well, which you're going to learn a little bit more about in this episode, and it's going to change how you see the things that are cluttering up your environment. She helps leaders and individuals clear emotional, mental, and physical clutter to unlock their full potential. With a background in occupational therapy and trauma recovery, Valerie developed the Do Well method, a holistic approach that blends resilience and productivity strategies, empowering people to break free from overwhelm and achieve sustainable success. The key word there is sustainable. I love that so much, Valerie. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Welcome to the Unlock Your Blocks podcast, everyone. We are going to absolutely tackle your clutter today in more ways than one. Valerie, thank you for being here.
I'm so happy to be here, Elyssa. Thank you.
Yes, I would love for you just to start by telling a little bit more about what you do and then the journey that it's taken you to get there. Can you give us like the elevator version of how you landed with Do Well and how that became something that you actually turned into a business and now you're helping people all over the place?
Yes, totally. So, do well, basically, what we do is we help people that accumulated clutter, and sometimes they don't know why, but often it's related to a past trauma. That's why we're trauma informed. And we help them be able to let go, not just of the clutter, like on the pile on the countertop or the kitchen table or the Amazon boxes in the entrance, we let go also of the clutter that brings the trauma. So we're really able to declutter our life. So we're able to create what we want in our life and thrive.
I love that. It's so beautiful. So, walk me through, how does a person become a trauma informed declutterer? Like, I know what my path is as a trauma informed strategist, coaching women into their next level, but I don't tackle decluttering specifically. And I know that you've got, some certifications that you got along the way, but before you ever had this business, what created this trajectory for you?
Yeah, it started I was really young. I was the little kid wanting to help everybody at school. The person with the crutches, I will take the backpack. Or I was always devoting and wanting to help. And growing up, at some point, I become a first state responder.
Oh, wow.
And I was helping people and I was training master instructor for first aid and all of that. But one day I was overwhelmed. It was too much. Like I had to realize that my trauma was affecting my life. Even if I wasn't thinking that it was my trauma at the beginning, it was symptom like I was having clutter. I was needing a nap in the afternoon. I was feeling not able to accomplish things, always late, kind of appearing like that.
Yeah.
And I went to the doctor and they diagnosed me with complex post-traumatic stress disorder at that time. And the doctor was so encouraging. He told me, ma'am, cannot do anything for you. It will just get worse with the year. Seriously. So I went on a journey of self-discovery with retreat, I tried meditation, hypnosis, EMDR, medication. I tried them all. But I was thinking I was feeling better. And one day my mom said, Val, you need to tell me, why do you have that much pasta? Are you cooking for an army?
Pasta? So she saw your
Pasta.
pasta supply?
Yes. So I opened the pantry when she left. I may have had 50 packs of pasta, maybe 20 pounds of flour, and I don't know how many cans. I was hoarding food because I was wanting to be ready to help anybody. So, but that was a coping mechanism for me to feel good and safe. And I look around the house, they were piled on the countertop. The kids has more toy than a daycare, basically. And my closet, I had 3 size up, 3 size down just in case. Maybe I will take weight, maybe I will lose weight. So, but that wasn't enough to make me realize that it was too much because I was still able to run away, put everything in a basket, put that in my bedroom if my mom or someone was wanting to come home. I was able to hide my clutter. So it becomes like something that progressively put a weight on my shoulder. And My husband got a position where he needed to move. We needed to move the family. And what happened is really like, so my husband got a transfer notice. And, the moving company comes and the guy in his blue uniform, he walk around the house. And then he stop and look at me and say, ma'am, you need to let go of at least 50% of your belonging if you want that we move you. You heard it right. 50%. That's one item out of two items. So we went on a journey of decluttering. We had 3 months to declutter. It was not enough long. My husband has to move first. I stay behind with the kids and the decluttering to do. So the night he left, I fall in tears. It was kind of, am I a hoarder? What will I do with what is still good? I don't have time to sell them. Will I donate them? Will I throw them in the garbage? What will I do with all of that? So I really hit rock bottom that night, but that allowed me to push back up for the following morning. So it was a real good turning point because the following day I decided that I will declutter 30 minutes every single day. And I started small like that to take action and stop procrastinating. And from there, I was able to reunite the family, and there's so much story in between, but basically we reunite the family, and I decided that it won't happen to other family. So we decided to start the business. And when I start going helping people, I start with home staging. This is something known and it's about helping people for when they move. But I quickly realized it's not putting a blanket here and there or a frame that people have difficulty. It's the decluttering part. So I did my professional organizer just to realize that, okay, it's good to, there's a good knowledge there, but why do professional organizer don't make it in a way that it doesn't come back?
Exactly.
You clear the pile, it's like a pendulum. You clear the pile on the counter, 1 week after it's back. So why there's a problem there? And most of my clients were talking to me about story of their trauma. And with my background in occupational therapy, with the fact that I had had trauma, with all of these, it led me to create a trauma-informed way to declutter. Because you cannot declutter the same way that Marie Kondo is saying with somebody that had trauma. Because Marie Kondo is saying, touch everything and ask yourself, does that bring joy? The problem is when somebody touches their belongings, there's the wave of emotion and all the story of that comes. And for someone that have trauma, it's just too much. So they say, oh, I'll do that later. But later never comes. So that's how I became a trauma-informed decluttering expert, to really want to help as many people. And, there's a lot of people that feel shame because of their clutter. And they don't want to open the door to someone coming in and decluttering with them because they have had bad experience with somebody else throwing their things in the garbage or in a container, even worse. So I am able to declutter with them via Zoom. And that way they feel safe. They are the one touching their belongings and they love that. And
That
you
is
should see the transformation.
That's
It's
so
beautiful.
brilliant. I can only imagine. That must just be the most amazing thing to see. And I think for a lot of people listening, probably they can really relate with, gosh, I know that I need to do this thing, but they're kind of putting it off. So in your case, you mentioned some procrastination. We talk a lot on this podcast about the three P's, which is perfectionism, procrastination, and people pleasing. And then
Oh, yeah.
they're two gang members, imposter syndrome and negative self-talk. So those five things tend to encompass a lot, especially for high achievers. So you
Yes.
mentioned procrastination for you. Are there any other pieces of self-sabotage that entered in for you or that you see stopping your client? You're smiling from
Oh,
ear to
yeah.
ear. You got
I have a
something.
story for you.
I'm ready. Lay it on me.
Okay. After I finished my decluttering, or even when I was still decluttering, Saturday morning, I'm ready. I did my decluttering. I go to the thrift store to give my donation. Gosh, they gave me a little coupon. Oh, here's 10% if you come shopping inside, or here's $5 free if you come shopping inside. What do I do with that? I don't want to bring more stuff at home. So I finally able to get back in my car, don't use it, give it to a homeless person on the way home. And then there's those sign at the corner of the streets, garage sale, garage sale. It was pulling me to go to see at those garage sale and find which treasure I can bring back home. So I went and grabbed some more things to bring back home. So I was letting go, but I was bringing stuff at the same time to cope with those feeling of emptiness that comes when you let go of clutter and you have lived for so long with clutter. And so talk about self-sabotage, you do that and you do that back. And then I was wanting to have the decluttering so perfect, that I didn't start. What if I do it the wrong way? What if I threw in the garbage the wrong thing? What if I threw something I will need later? So the perfectionism bring procrastination and the people pleasing. That person always asks me if they can borrow this.
Or so and
Okay,
so gave that to me. And what if they asked
exactly.
about it? Oh gosh, that was something I came when I started decluttering my life.
Yeah.
That was a gift. What if they
What if
asked me about it?
what if they don't see it on the wall anymore? So, yeah, procrastination, perfectionism, people pleasing, of course. And yes, as I started the business, who am I to be able to help other people? And I can say that when we declutter, when we let go of the clutter, we let go of the trauma as well. I forget to mention that in my story, but when I had that transformation of letting go, it's not just letting go of the belongings. All my coping mechanism, all my nightmares, my flashback, everything goes away. So it really helps with mental health when you let go of trauma and let go of clutter.
That makes total sense. And this process that you're talking about, what you're creating is safety in a place there's not been safety before.
Correct.
Having, it could be perceived as emptiness around you, or it could be perceived as order or cleanliness. But when you see it from a trauma perspective, this is actually, so part of my studies we're in attachment wounding
Yes.
and
Yes.
attachment theory, right? And I think we've
Yeah.
talked about this. So when a person has attachment wounding, attachment disorder, typically they will bond with things over people. And that
Correct.
can lead to a lifestyle of hoarding and not being able to let go of things because it doesn't feel safe. We need to fill that emotional hole with stuff. And I think,
Yeah.
even if you're not badly attachment wounded, that can happen to just, the best of people who are healthy
Oh,
as
totally.
anybody else. But
Yeah.
yeah, that
You
that
know,
idea that stuff will take the place.
I see a lot of doctor in my program, psychologists, psychotherapists, occupational therapists, a lot of first responder, military. They are high performance people. They are people that serve other and they're good at what they do. But when they arrive home, they're exhausted. And then I don't know how many will flop on the couch, scrolling on their phone or looking at Netflix. And then they look at the kitchen and I still have a pile of dishes from yesterday. Well, let's order takeout. I don't know how many times I've sung that. And that's is a fact that is normal because people that live with high stress, particularly people that had past trauma, the brain shift the way it works. And they are in that fight or flight mode, where the cortisol, the stress hormone, is through the roof. And the problem is when the cortisol is too high, it slows down the frontal lobe of the brain. So all day long, they burn more energy than other people to keep their frontal lobe up to speed to work. But when they arrive home, they don't have that energy anymore. And then we see that planning, organizing, sorting, making decision, focus, all these kind of things become problematic. So it's really hard to maintain a home tidy if these abilities are slowed down. It's like if I ask someone to push a car that has no gas in, and then I decide to put the pedal brake in addition of that. That's the cortisol, the brake pedal. How do you want to push that car? It's the same thing for the people. How do you want them to maintain their home? It just become too hard. And these are high achiever. They are perfectionist people. They are people pleasing people and all of that. So yeah, I see that a lot.
That's incredible. That makes total sense. One of the first things that when I'm talking about the survival brain, one of the first things that I mention is the fact that your executive functions there's a damper on those. You can't have your higher
Yeah,
level decision making, the logic, rational thinking. It goes offline because your body just thinks I'm either about to run away from a wild animal or I'm about to fight one to the death. And
correct.
calculus does not matter, nor does organization or order or
No.
anything logical. And so if you
Even
have a
more
job,
than that, your
mhm.
clutter can help you hide.
Mic drop.
So it's no, but it's really your clutter can help you to hide. Your clutter can help you say no to the people you don't want them to come at home
Yep.
or the people you don't feel safe with because either they're narcissistic, either they have a pattern that bring you back in your trauma, whatever the reason.
Yeah. It's a lot like that with I see this with, people who are traumatized and hold on to weight on their bodies or surround themselves, like, with the things like you're saying, and we have ways that we seek safety. So, particularly if you become a bit kind of it sounds like you were sort of house blind. You didn't realize
Yes.
that you had 50 things of pasta because you're just used to operating with the 50 things of pasta, and
That's
then
exactly.
your come to Jesus moment, so to speak, was like, hey, we can't move all this stuff. You have to get rid of half of it. What in the world? Like your
Yes.
brakes just screeched to a stop. And I think that it is so courageous and necessary for people. It sounds like the ones that you work with as well, but just for us in general as humans who have some type of trauma, which by the way, not everyone recognizes that they've had trauma,
True.
right? Like you didn't
Yeah,
recognize until you got diagnosed. And I just
exactly.
think that your doctor wasn't more helpful, but it is wonderful that you turned it into something so beautiful for
Yeah.
yourself and you were able to heal. But that idea that there might be, if you are struggling with clutter, if you're struggling with some of these things and you can't do what I'm giving air quotes, what you should do, should be able to keep your house tidy. You should be able to stay organized. And if you're finding that you're not able to, there's something deeper there. And it might be hidden and it might not look like trauma. We have big T trauma, we have little T trauma. I talk about tiny T trauma.
And sometimes, we don't need to go and dive into what was the trauma like it's done in some therapy. With us, we use the do well method, and we acknowledge that it's there. But what can we do to move forward
Hmm. Yeah. So
instead
do
of
you,
going diving into it?
yeah. Do you want to walk us through what that method looks like? I would love to have you give people a little peek behind the curtain there.
Of course, I mentioned a little bit earlier that trauma is a problem with stress, with the stress hormone that is too high and the executive function. So, our really first step is about reducing or decluttering the stress because we want the frontal lobe to kick in so people are able to make decisions about what they have in their house. I remember times where I was asking, okay, let's say a kiddo. I was asking my mom, what should I do with that kiddo? Well, do what you want to do. Okay, that's not the answer I was wanting. I asked my sister, what should I do with that kiddo? You can plant, plant plants in it and you can put it in the garden. So that was more idea that I even didn't had. So I had to make a decision with even more idea now. So until the brain, the executive function are kicking in, it doesn't serve to declutter because it will just do like the pendulum. It will come back all the time. So we really focus on bringing back those ability that you already have. It's just that because of the stress, we have the feeling that they are not there. I don't know how many people I've seen diagnosed with ADHD that when we let go of the stress, they're totally able to function. I even had a so wonderful lady. She was thinking she was having Alzheimer or dementia. And when she let go of the stress, she's able to function, to drive, to do whatever she wants. So stress is really something bigger than people want to admit because we are used to run on stress and to thrive on stress for high achiever. So that's the first step. When that is done, we're ready to tackle mindset. This is where we let go of the coping mechanism associated with the trauma. For example, negative self talk, difficulty with attachment. We will talk about emotion. People bury their emotion, but one day they need to come out. They will need to come out at some point. The more you bury it, I compare that like if people put their emotion in a big beach ball and put the beach ball under the water. They will come out at some point and it will splash everywhere. There will be some tears, and someday you will not understand why you cry. It's okay, just cry. You don't need to understand. You're not feeling worse, you're feeling better because you're letting that out. So, yeah, we tackle mindset, we tackle self esteem and mindset, lots of different subjects. People love that so much that they often ask, can I do it again before going to the next step? So, mindset is a wonderful part. Then we tackle time. Because when the executive functions start working, it's the perfect moment to adjust new routines and behavior and habits so we can feel more energized, but we can also find where will I declutter in my time? Because we are busy and we clutter didn't accumulate in a day. It won't go overnight. You won't take a magic wand, took, and it's gone, you know? And you don't want that because they do that in the hoarders show, to the
They do.
people when they put everything in the container. And that creates a trauma to these people. If you have watched one of these hoarders show, at some point the person lose it all. And then the person sit on something and they're dissociating. They're not there anymore because they're not able to deal with the situation. And that's really another trauma. So we don't want to do that. We want to put decluttering consistency in it, in your schedule, but in a way that it's small step at a time, but we always progress. Decluttering become a lifestyle. So when we have adjust our agenda, so we don't have that little, well, you should be decluttering right now instead of being with your friends. When we stop having all of this, then we can tackle the clutter. That is the last step. And what is wonderful is when people have done the three first steps first, they're able to maintain what they declutter. They're not just shuffling around the clutter and make it more packed and organized in something. They're really letting go of what is not necessary.
Yes.
That's the dual method.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it's so important what you said about the fact that it actually will be sustainable in the end, because during this process, you're actually creating new pathways in the brain,
Oh,
right?
yes.
New responses to stress. Instead of we're going to shut down, we're going to hold on to things when we're stressed, which is the body's tendency, by the way. Like that's our digestive systems, our immune systems, everything just sort of like shuts down and holds on, and we're not able to repair, we're not able to replenish and refresh ours even at a cellular level when we're in that trauma response. But as you rebuild safety can look like one container of pasta in the pantry, right? But if you've
Yeah.
ever had food scarcity, that's not going to feel safe. So you have to actually go through and create, okay, this is a safe space, and you continue to make that the safety associations as you let go.
Yeah, and that's why I love working in group with people. Because when we work in group, we tackle also the vagus nerve and bring
Yes.
people in safe and social environment. So it allows them to discover that they can be safe somewhere, and then they can transfer that safety to their home.
That's beautiful.
So I love that.
That's fantastic. And so I have a method for this, just working on nervous system regulation. And it's the 3S method. So it's safety, which is helping with breath work and things, helping get
Hmm.
grounded in the moment, and then self nurturing, making the body feel safe, and then safe support. You have that community, those people. Your body needs to know that you're not going to get picked off by a predator because you've been kicked out of the herd, right? Like that
Yeah.
social aspect of this process sounds just beautiful.
Oh, that's beautiful. I
Yeah.
love your
So
3S.
yes, the 3S, it's so fun, and it's simple, and just like the do well method, it's just the 4 steps. I love that. It doesn't feel overwhelming when you talk about it like that. And I think one thing, tell me if you run into this with any of your clients, but one of the things that when I'm helping someone through trauma based on self-sabotage behaviors is sometimes they won't want to start the process because it feels like this giant jump. But the fact that
Yes.
you're starting in with the seemingly smaller, like, okay, let's just start to feel better. Let's start to address
Yeah.
the stress. It's like a smaller jumping out. We're not even talking about the pile in the corner yet. We're just talking about, like, how can we help your body feel good?
How can you feel good first so you can tackle the clutter later on?
Love it.
Totally. I compare it, and sometimes you see a ladder with some wrong, and somebody go with the wrong, small, put hundreds wrong on that ladders, okay? And go one wrong at a time, but at a steady pace. And
Yes.
take somebody else, you put the wrong, like military people in their training, where they need to grab something really high and pull on themselves above it and then put the feet on the wrong. And then they're good, they reach that high level. I need to do the same thing for the next level and the next one and the next one. That is how people see I need to tackle 4 hours of clutter. It's like doing that versus I will do 30 minutes period this week. It's completely different. The 30-minute period is achievable. And it's like going one wrong at a time, steady, versus the other one that struggle because it's a big 4 hour that I need to do.
Yeah. That all or nothing thinking, I'm telling you, that is a thing for high achievers. Just feeling like
Yes.
I had one client who a few years ago who was doing a renovation of one of her rooms, and she would have time to work on it built into the calendar, and she would get to that time of the day on a Saturday afternoon. This is 3 hours that I've blocked out, and she would just stand in the room. So we spent several sessions just talking about what's it like when you go in there, and she said, I'll just stand in the room. I immediately start making mental lists in my head, or I'll look at my written list, and she just gets so overwhelmed she would just leave and go watch TV. And I'm like, I
Yeah,
get it, it's too much. You can't start at that level to do it
correct.
all at once and perfectly.
Yes,
That's too much pressure. That's the rung that's high up that you have to jump for, and it's going to defeat you eventually because it's not the path of least resistance for your survival brain.
correct.
Yeah. Well, that's a beautiful process. Thank you for sharing that. So, what do you see, what's the transformation like? So if you have a client that comes to you, they work in the group, they do the do well method, they work through their sabotage, the perfectionism, the all or nothing, all of those things.
Yeah.
What becomes possible then on the other side? What
Oh
do
my
you get to
God.
see in the transformation? I'm so curious.
I'll just talk to you about Lori.
Okay.
Lori, when she came at the beginning, she was on screen, like
So you're hunched
shoulder
over.
crunch over
Okay.
and no emotion in her face, and she was in bed because she was having fibromyalgia and everything was too hard and too much and too tired and too overwhelmed, and she even doesn't have her full bed full because there were things on her bed because that was her main place where she was. So that's the beginning, and then progressively she light up on camera. Progressively, her posture changed. Progressively, she was in the living room instead of being in her bed. And progressively, she had a smoothie on a video one time, and she started finally to let go of the clutter around. You know what? Lori is working now instead of being on disability.
That's
Lori is
incredible.
working full time. And that's just an example. She gained back her capability to function in society, but for her to thrive, to have time with her kids, to enjoy going to musicals, as she just did a trip recently and was able to walk like 15,000 steps. We're talking about the person that was in bed 7 days out of 7. It's just a complete transformation. I have had people that were having breathing difficulty because they were thinking it was their body, but their body was reacted to the mold and the dust in the home. When we let go of clutter, their lung function came back and that person was able to go back working and do activities. While before that person was on the couch, sometime on oxygen and not being able to function. But the doctor never asked, what is the state at your home? They treat her for what she was having, like the symptom. So there's a big of taboo about clutter and a big taboo about trauma. We start talking more about trauma, but it's still a little bit taboo. And clutter is taboo still. People don't want to say because they feel inadequate if they say that they have clutter. So, yeah, the transformation is just beautiful. People start thriving instead of surviving.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing her story. I'm so happy for her. That's amazing. It's just so
Yeah.
beautiful to see when someone starts to believe in themselves again, because the trauma will say you're not safe and you can't keep yourself safe. Therefore, you need to cope and try and seek safety however you always used to. And when you
Oh,
start to
yeah.
see them doing new behaviors and healthier behaviors, that's just beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
And it's getting out of their comfort zone that is the most difficult
Mhm.
because they feel safe in that comfort zone. I often compare the comfort zone to a bodyguard. You see the babysitters where he was a real bodyguard but babysitting kids?
Yes.
You know how he was keeping the kids inside the house until it become more dangerous to be in the house than outside of the house. And that's what's happened with clutter in the comfort zone. People stay inside their clutter until it becomes too dangerous and they need to get out of that comfort zone to be able to thrive. But for that, we need to rewire the brain. There's a lot of change that needs to happen. But when they get out of the comfort zone, then they can flourish. And it's so beautiful.
That's beautiful. I love, yes, exactly. The you'll stay the same until the pain of staying the same is worse than the pain of changing. I love that.
Yeah.
So For someone listening right now who's resonating with your story, maybe they're coming to terms with their clutter, maybe they're coming to terms with, some of the ways that they think their trauma is getting in the way of how they keep house. And something we didn't really touch on is the mental load of women in general, and that this weighs on us more than it typically weighs on our male counterparts. So, for someone who's listening today and maybe she's thinking, like, I just don't think I don't really even know. Maybe she's stuck, she's frozen, she's not sure how to move forward with her clutter. What would you recommend as her very first step in getting free of the clutter?
Yeah, the very first step will be to take a deep breath. That will be really the very, very first step. After that, yes, she can find us on our website. That will be in the notes and all of that. But the very first step will be to start with reducing the stress so we can start thinking about doing other things. But as long as the stress and the cortisol is too high, we're stuck there. It's not a question of willingness. It's physiological, it's body chemical reaction inside the body. It's not that the person doesn't want, it's not that the person is lazy. It's that the biochemical in the body, the physiology of the body prevent to take action.
And I think that takes the shame away from it, because so many of us do feel that shame you talked about in not being able to keep things tidy. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like, if we have some time, to give a couple tips. One tips in particular for people that say, but I want to start with what is on my countertop, or I want to start with what is in my entrance. It's good tackling the stress, but I don't have that much clutter and somebody's coming to eat tonight. So I talked earlier that it's a stress problem and an emotional problem. The thing is, when you touch your belongings, there's a link that goes between the sense of touch and the limbic system in the brain. With that, all the story of that object, all the emotion related with that object, and all the emotion related to what is related to the object came into mind. So people become overwhelmed and will say, I'll do that later. It's really because the sense of touch the item, and the trauma is stored in the limbic system. So it's just hitting those people when they start decluttering. So what is important is put on a pair of gloves. As simple as that. Yes.
My jaw is on the floor. I did not know this.
Don't touch like Marie Kondo say, touch and experience the joy. No, people with trauma cannot do that. Put on a pair of gloves, then you will be able to declutter 40% more, and you will be able to make objective decision because you don't have that wave of emotion that come and put you down. And when you're able to do that, you're less tired at the end of the decluttering session and you're not energy or decision fatigue. You're all right. So you can do something else. And there's a lot of people that need a nap after a decluttering session, and that is totally normal, by the way. So 40% more with the gloves, that is one of my 7 secrets that I love to share with your audience.
Thank you.
So it's just one example.
That is such a gift. I have literally never heard that before, but it totally makes sense. And the fact that you can trace it to how much more productive you can be, my
Mhm.
goodness. I absolutely will be using that. That's such a great tip.
It makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for that. I want to ask you a couple more questions and then I'll give you a chance to kind of share anything else. I know that you have a little something you want to share with the audience at the end. So, what is your go to favorite pump up song that gives you a reset?
That's a really good question because I have a couple of ones.
Okay.
I have Happy by Pharrell Williams. That one, to start a decluttering session, it puts you on the mood.
Yes.
But if I want to work on my business, for example, I will take I Am a Billionaire because it's the beat is different. And so I will say those two songs are kind of go to, but I have songs for celebrating because every small step we do, that 5 minutes of decluttering need to be celebrated. So I will use celebration or I will use We Are the Champion as song to celebrate, even if it's just one object that has been put away. It's worth celebrating.
That's brilliant. Oh my gosh, that's gold right there. I love that. Okay, I hope everyone's adding those to your playlist. That's brilliant. And then my last question before we kind of close out here and you can tell everybody where to find you is if you only have 5 minutes and you just want to take good care of your system so it feels safe, it feels good, you're doing some self-nurturing, what do you like to do?
I take my phone, I open it, and there's an app called Brain.
Brain.fm. I see that. Okay.
Yes, brain.fm. The thing is, there's some power nap on it. There's some music if you want to focus on what you work, but there's some meditation, guided or not guided. And you decide the length of the meditation. You can take it just a 5 minute meditation, and it will provide you a guided or non-guided, depending on what you choose, meditation for that 5 minutes. And that's a complete reset.
That's
So
brilliant. What a
that's what
great
I
shortcut.
use.
That's a great shortcut. Thank you so much. I love that. Okay, so brain.fm. Is that, did I say it right? Yes, brain.
Yeah, brain.fm.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. I love that. Oh my gosh, you are so full of amazing tips. This is wonderful. So, is there anything else you want to share with us? And then I'd love for you to share where people can find you. What's the best place if they want to kind of start taking in some of your content and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so there's a couple things, and I don't want to overwhelm people. So I will make it simple. Our website is DoWellHT, the letter H and T like home transformation.com. Okay.
DoWellHT.com. And everyone, this is going to be in the show notes as well. So
Yeah.
you'll be able to look at it there, but just in case you want to hear it.
In there, there's quiz, there's challenges, there's tips, there's blogs, there's the link to our podcast, the link to our YouTube channel. Everything is on there, except the gift that I have for you today. The gift that I have for you today is at up.duellht.com. It will be in the show notes, so if you don't have time to note it, it's totally okay. /7 secrets dash ES.
I love
So
that. And that's where
that
we're going to
you
see
will
more.
have 7 secrets. I already gave one, but you have 6 other secrets of decluttering.
That's fantastic. And I'm so curious what the other six are. That glove one with that blew my socks off. That was amazing. Valerie, thank you so much. This has been so rich and full in just a whole sort of meal of walking us through the process and normalizing clutter and looking at why it's happening and taking away the shame and the stigma. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you for all the golden nuggets that you shared. And for everyone listening, I hope that there was something in here. I know that there had to be something that was in here today that felt like it was just for you. Please do go follow Valerie and her team at dowell.com, dowellht.com. It'll be in the notes. Double check that. Until next time, take such good care of yourself, and we will see you soon.